So this right here is an intelligent DMX lighting controller. What makes this an intelligent lighting controller? Instead of having faders and chases and stuff like that, instead you set a couple of parameters up in this, and then this device will listen to the music and make a lighting show based on some of the parameters that you've set up. This is the MaestroDMX, and I've been using it for the last couple of months, and it's a really cool way to just say, hey, here's some general settings, make the light show look like this. Of course, you can also actually take that further with this. You can trigger different scenes or cues as they're called, and you can have different lighting cues that you trigger with MIDI or with a computer if you're like a lighting designer or something like that. I do want to be clear right off the bat, this is not sound mode. This thing is so much better than that. This saves so much time on DMX programming. If you've ever programmed DMX lights, it takes forever. This is just a really cool way to either one, just say, hey, here's some general guidelines, make the show look like this. Or if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you could say like for the verse of the song, I just want like a light blue wash with a little bit of movement. But then when the chorus kicks in, I want you to go to a Prince Colors theme with a little bit more excitement and stuff like that. And in this video, I'm going to go over how to set it up, give you some examples, share my experience, and see if this is something that's right for you. I do want to say many thanks to Limbic Media for sending the MaestroDMX over for me to check out for the channel. This is not a paid video or anything like that. All the opinions in this video are my own. I love this. I'm going to keep using it, and we're going to see if this is something that's right for you and your needs. And if you do decide this is something that's right for you, you can use promo code ScottYuleMusic at checkout to get 10% off of your purchase. There will be links down below in the description. Before we get started, you do have to know just some basics about DMX programming. If you know absolutely nothing about DMX, you need to watch my beginner's guide to DMX programming first, and then come back and watch this video. And also at the beginning, it is a little bit boring because you have to tell Maestro what lights you're using and how they're configured. I am going to show you visual examples of it working. We just have to go through the setup, and I'm going to explain how it works and then show examples of it working so you understand what is happening. So just keep that in mind. Visual demonstrations are coming. That's enough of the intro. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to fixtures.maestrodmx.com, and you want to download some of your fixture profiles. So I'm going to search for the CHAUVET Gig Bar 2, and you can see that it found it. This is it right here. I'm going to download that one. I'm also going to search for my ADJ Mega Go Bar 50, and you can see it's right here. It tells you like the DMX modes that it has and stuff like that. I'm going to download them. You're going to download all of your fixtures first. And the reason why we want to download that first is because we're about to connect to Maestro with Wi-Fi. Really nice that you can power this with USB-C, so you actually can power it with like a charging bank like this, which is what I have done at a few shows. And then you can see over here the light. You're going to wait for it to turn blue, and that means it's ready to go. Keep in mind, you do have the option to connect to this via Ethernet if you would like. However, I'm going to connect to this via Wi-Fi. This USB port is going to be for connecting MIDI, which I'll do later. On this side, you have your DMX out and your audio in. I have been using these wireless DMX dongles that have been working pretty well, actually. There's one limitation with them that I'll get to later, but I'm going to plug that into the DMX out, and then all of these are going to plug into my lights. And then for the audio input, it is RCA, so you might need an adapter like this. This is RCA to TRS 1/4 inch. You have this one that is RCA to XLR. I'll link to those down below, along with those wireless DMX dongles if you are interested, but you're going to plug that in here. You can also use that USB port and plug in like an audio interface or something like that. And then this cable, I'm going to plug into where I'm getting sound from. For this video, it's going to be from my audio interface, but when I've been doing it live, it's been coming out of my mixer. Next, you're going to want to connect to the Maestro network. It should be under Maestro, and the Wi-Fi password is my Maestro to start. You can change that later. And then when you're successfully connected, load up a browser and go to maestro.local, and now you can start programming and setting up Maestro. So the first thing you need to do is you need to tell Maestro what lights you are going to be using and how they're configured as far as their DMX address and stuff like that. First thing you're going to do is you're going to go up here to Fixture Profiles. And you can see that I have some of these already imported. But what you are going to want to do is you're going to want to go over here and you're going to click Add Profile. And then you're going to drag in those profiles that you downloaded at the beginning of this video. So for example, here's one that I don't have. It's one that I used to use, the Intimidator Spot Duo. I'm going to drag and drop that in. And you can see it shows up here. You can see all of the configurations that it has, but you can see that this light in particular has either 20 channel mode, 17 channel mode, or 10 channel mode. And I can just make sure that those are configured properly. And you want to do that for all of the lights that you're going to be using. Again, you can see in here that I have some of them that I have imported. So here's the Gig Bar 2, which are some of my main lights. You can see the different modes. It's nice that it says 3 channel mode is not recommended. So they've done their research. And if for some reason fixtures.MaestroDMX.com didn't have your profiles, you also can add a profile and you can make your own. I will link to a video explaining that more, but I do find that they have a lot of fixtures on their website. Okay, now that your fixtures are imported, you need to set up your stage. So go up here to stage. So what you want to do is you want to start adding your fixtures. Click here under fixture profile mode. And you can see all of the fixtures that I have imported. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Easy Par 64. And I do this in 4-channel mode. I use 2 of them, but they're both going to be set to the same address because I want them to move together, do the exact same thing. The DMX starting address is 1, and I'll show you this fixture group here in a minute. So I'm going to hit save, and now that is imported. Next, I'm going to import the Gig Bar 2. I found that I personally like this in 11-channel mode. And this one, the starting address is 9. And I'm going to hit save. Also, I'm going to use 2 of those, and I want those to move together. Always do the exact same thing. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a fixture, and I'm going to do the Mega Go Bar RGBA. Now this one, I'm going to have 5 of them, and I do want them to move differently. I don't want them to always do the same thing. So the first one I'm going to set to starting address 32. You can do this repeats channel right here, but I actually like to do it this way. So let me go ahead and save. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate the fixture. And Maestro is actually smart. It will set the DMX address to the next available one. Since I'm using it in 4-channel mode, starting on 32, it sets the next one to 36. So hit save, duplicate. It sets it to 40, duplicate, sets it to 44, duplicate, sets it to 48. So now these are all the lights that I'm going to be using for this show. All of them are imported, and they're all set to the correct number of channels, and they're all set to the correct DMX address. Now what you want to do is you want to go to the fixture group over here. You get 4 different fixture groups so that you can set each of the 4 different fixture groups to have different scenes and different looks and different energy levels and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the Gig Bar 2 to primary because those are my main lights. The ADJ bars, I'm going to set those to the secondary. And then on this, the Easy Pars, these are usually just pointed up at my drummer. I'm going to set them to the 3rd group. All right, that's the boring stuff. Your lights are imported. You've set them to the correct addresses and channel modes. Now let's start programming some scenes and the look of our DMX lights. So let's go to the Show tab up here. So first of all, you have your global brightness right here if you want to change that. You also have some triggers over here, which I will show you later. Now yours might look slightly different. They will have some default cues over here. I've went ahead and programmed some of my own and edited them and made them into ones that I like. But let's go ahead and program our own. So you can see over here, you have the 4 different fixture groups, and you can set them to do separate things. So let's program the primary one first. The first thing you want to do is go to the pattern. And you can choose some of the Maestro patterns from still all the way up to party. So still is obviously going to be the least amount of movement, and party is going to be the most amount of movement from the lights. Let's say this one's going to be a high energy type of scene that you want. So let's set it to party. You do have a couple other ones down here as well, but those 6 are the main ones that you're going to use. Next, you're going to choose your color palette. So you can scroll up, and some of these give you names of what all of the colors are going to be. So this is all blue and green palettes. This is Color Prism, which has a ton of different colors in it. And some of them will give you this bar down here that shows you the kind of colors that your lights will do. Of course, it depends on if your lights are capable of outputting those colors. Do keep that in mind. But you can scroll down. You can say, I want this to just be yellow lights. I only want the lights to be yellow. Or I can scroll down and pick this sunrise one. This one's a really cool one. I really like that one. Or stained glass. Stained glass is one I use a lot because that basically gets a lot of the colors. Some of my favorite ones, Northern Lights is awesome. Prince Tribute is one of my favorite ones. I love the layers with that one. This Glacier one is really cool to get all the different shades of blue. I love that one. Pastel Vomit is just a great name for a color palette. But you're going to choose basically the color palette or the colors that you want these lights to go to. So if I choose this Northern Lights one, you can see that there's like these purples, these blues, these greens. You're basically never going to have any red lights. Effect palette, I'm going to show you later. But down here, now you can adjust the brightness. That should be pretty obvious. The 2 most important ones are excitement and background. And the thing that's nice about this is you can hover over any of these eye icons right here, and you can find out a little bit more info about it. But excitement is how much do you want the lights to move? That should be pretty obvious, but background's actually a really important one. If you slide it up higher, the lights will basically never go black the higher up that you set it. And the lower you set it, the more flashy it will be. So that's definitely an important one. You can bring the background up if you don't want the lights to go out very often. You have some settings for your movers. I don't have any movers, but you have some settings on that. Do you want music-based blackouts, which I personally don't, and then blackout on silence. So if it's getting no sound, the lights will black out. You do have a couple more advanced parameters down here, so you can allow these lights to be triggered by the strobe trigger and stuff like that. I'll show you that a little bit later. So that's all just the primary cue. That's just, in my case, the gig bar 2. Now I'm going to go over to the secondary one. And this one I'm going to set to energetic. I don't want them to move quite as much as the other lights. And I'm going to set this one to glacier because I just want it to be just the blue colors. In this case, I want background higher because I don't want the lights to pretty much ever turn black, or I want them to turn black less. And I'll just leave the excitement at 50%. And on the third lights, the ones that go on my drummer, I'm going to set those to chill. I'm going to set those to blue and yellow in this case, with less excitement, and set them more to background so that they hardly ever go out. And I could also say disable the strobe. So when I trigger the strobe, I don't want it to go to these lights, for example. So once you're happy with this, you can hit Save As Cue. And you can see that it saved a cue down here with all of my other ones. So I'm just going to rename this to YouTube Test. You can drag and reorder it if you want. And then you can push play, and now that lighting cue is going to your DMX lights. And if you ever want to update this cue, you're going to go over here to Edit Cue. So let's say on the secondary one, I actually want it to be more upbeat, make it more dance. You can also choose how much time you want it to take to transition from one of the cues to the other cues. So I'm going to save that. So now this is my entire show. I have 28 different cues in here. Keep in mind, you can also download the show if you want to, and you can also make multiple shows. So you can see I have one show saved for 90% 90s, which is my cover band. I also have another show saved for Spiral Cell, which is my original music. They all can have different cues to go with your music. All right, let's see this thing in action now that we have everything programmed. I wonder how many people just skipped ahead to the demo part, but let's start seeing this work. So I am going to do this from my phone, because remember, you can do this from your phone as well. Just go to maestro.local after you've connected to the Wi-Fi. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go check your audio levels. So click the 3 dots over here and click audio. And then when you play music, you want it to be in the green. You don't want it to be too low or too loud. Make sure the signal that you're sending to Maestro is set properly. So you can see when I'm playing music, the level is in the green, so I'm good. I'm going to play some copyright-free music. I've had to reshoot this a couple of times because YouTube kept claiming the video. But what you want to do actually is I'm going to go over here to the stage and I'm going to turn off the fixtures that I'm not using. So I'm only using 3 of the ADJ bars. So I'm going to turn off the other 2 and I'm going to turn off this other one because you want Maestro to only send messages to the lights that you're using. But you can see the music is driving the lights already, which is really cool. So I'm going to go over to the show and I'm just going to show you some of the presets that I really like. So this one's the Prince Colors. Here's the Glacier one. This is the Northern Lights one, which is all the chill preset. Here's a purplish one. You can tell the song is getting louder, so let's go to like a higher energy one just so you can see. So that's if you wanted to change, the scenes or whatever. And if that was too much, I could always go in here and I can change some of this. So I could say, that's way too much excitement, bring the excitement down, bring the background up. I'm gonna do that on all 3 fixture groups. But then on my gig bars, I actually want more movement. That's not enough movement. So you can program it and see how it looks. So here's the Glacier one. So look how kind of laid back it is for this part of the song. If I leave on just the backlights, you could see that it's still making a scene with just those lights. Let's turn those back on. Let's do a high energy one again. You can see that there's a lot more movement. So that was me switching between a bunch of different shows and cues that I have. Let me just set it to this Northern Light one. And you can see there's still a good amount of movement in the higher energy part. But now when it drops here, the lights calm down and give a more mellow scene. That alone is 100% what I love about this. It can listen to the music and make scenes based on the activity of the music. This is all just staying on one scene. So you can see this one, it took a second to transition. Now it's kind of gotten that it's transitioning to the next one. That's about the only issue that I've ever really had with it. It might take a second to transition. But you can see going from mellow to louder, it was able to make those adjustments in real time, even without changing the cue. It's so cool. So let's go ahead and do one more song with a slightly different style. And you can see even on like this high energy one, it waits until the drums come in. It truly does listen to the music. I'm just gonna leave it on this setting for a while so you can see what it does. Here's the neon retro one that I really like. You see, this is just not sound mode. If this was sound mode, it would just be going completely chaotic. Each thing would be doing its own thing. It's truly making its own light show. Here's the Northern Lights, kind of a lot more chill, which you can see I have it as the chill preset. But this is the right amount of movement that I would want for something like this. You can see when I pick the stage lights, you can see that the lasers and the strobes have stopped. If you're wondering how I did that, that's with the effect palettes, and I'll show you that here later. Let's go to the Prince Colors preset, which I use a lot. Here's the highest energy. Let's say that I actually want those gig bars to move a little bit more. There was too much background. I want them to actually blink a little bit more. Let's bring the excitement up and the background down, and you'll see that the lights are going to blink a little bit more. So just do this and kind of program your light scenes and just really mess around with it to get it to look how you want it to. Here's some of the triggers. So I can trigger a black out all the lights. I can hit the blinder, turn them all on white. You can also hit this strobe. Now those wireless dongles actually make the strobe a little bit glitchy, so just know that if you do decide to use those wireless dongles. But you can have different settings for your strobe as well. I'm going to set this back to the Prince colors and just kind of let it do its thing. That light show was all done with just a few parameters, no DMX programming. Pretty wild. Now, if you want to take it further, you also can program it with MIDI, which is what I've been doing live. So looking at the chart, you can see that it responds on MIDI channel 16, and these are the commands that you need to send in order to trigger these effects. If that doesn't make any sense, I do recommend that you watch my MIDI Programming Beginner's Guide so that you understand how to program MIDI. But you can see if I want to trigger like a blackout, I have to send note number 13. If I want to stop all the cues, I can do note number 28. Selecting a specific cue will be notes 29 through 127, and so on and so forth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to program this with my Graviton M2 by Luminite. I love this MIDI controller. I have a video going over it. Really, really cool. This is what I've been using mostly to trigger it when I use it live. I have it connected into that USB-A slot on the Maestro, and it comes out USB-C on the MIDI controller. And it actually gets power from the Maestro, which is also really nice as well. Since it is USB-A that you need to get into, a couple of cables you might need. I have a video on this USB-A to 5-pin MIDI adapter cable. This is the YouTube MIDI by CME Pro. They make some great MIDI stuff. If you want a wireless MIDI solution or a Bluetooth MIDI solution, CME Pro also makes the WIDI BUD, which is also really cool. Something else I've been using. If you need something more advanced, this is the Plexus 4 by JMK Music pedals. Pretty advanced. It does have USB inputs and outputs, and I have a video going over that as well. But either way, it is connected to the Maestro. So you can see I've already programmed this ahead of time. I want when I push this button, it loads the high energy preset, and you'll see see it will load the high energy preset when I click this button, because I'm sending note command 29 to load Q1. If I want to load the Prince preset or cue, I can click this button. You'll see it loads the Prince cue. This button right here is just stop. It will stop all of it. This one will load the Glacier. This one will load the Sunrise, and so on and so forth. But let's say I wanted to trigger that blackout. This is why I like this MIDI controller. I'm going to rename this to, say, blackout. I'm going to program this to send a note command. I need to set it to MIDI channel 16 because Maestro responds on MIDI channel 16. What is the note command to toggle on and off the blackout? Note 13, so that's what I'm going to program this to do. And now when I push this blackout button, you can see that blackout turns on and turns off. So I am able to control Maestro with MIDI, which is what I have been doing when I use it live. Very, very cool. And now I'm going to show you some examples of how I trigger different cues using Logic, sending MIDI messages to Maestro. So now I'm actually going to demo this with some of my original music. I'm a musician. We have to say, listen to my music, bro, at some point. But part of the reason why I chose this song in particular is it's only 2 minutes. It's the first track on the new album I just released. And it's meant to sound like a movie trailer. And each section gets like a little bit more chaotic and louder. And I think it's actually a really good demo to show you how it's able to listen to the music and make a light scene based on it. So I wanted to set this up similar to the way that I'm going to perform live. It's very similar to the way that I did in this music video. I had so much trouble getting the light to work, and I couldn't get the framing right to save my life. I just don't have a big enough backdrop for this. So you get to see part of my living room, but you can still see the light show. I also filmed it twice, once with my camera and once with my iPhone. The song is short enough. I want to show you both of them because I triggered this with MIDI, but remember, I just give it guidelines, so it's not going to give the exact same light show every time. And I think it's important to see that it does change a little bit, which is actually what's really cool about it. It gets the general idea, but it can be different each time. So here you go. And here's me running it again on my iPhone, and it'll give slightly different results. One more quick demo I want to give you. With that last example, I triggered different cues with MIDI. With this next example, I'm going to leave it just on these settings right here. Pretty generic. And what I want you to notice is that when the song is more mellow, the lights stay mellow. But then when it gets heavier, it knows to change the scene and make it a little bit more busy, which is really cool.
No other generators responding.
Storm took out everything.
Currently on only portable generators. Fortunately, I charged mine last week.
All the power is out. I'm able to document this on my portable devices.
I can't remember a time it ever stormed like this.
So now I'll fast forward to where the song gets a little bit bigger.
In a few minutes, I just don't try anything stupid.
See how the lights change?
Lost in limbo with half the code.
And then when it gets even bigger.
Just listening.
And you'll notice, like at the more mellow parts, it is more mellow, and as it gets bigger, it does get more chaotic, which is what's really cool about this. It's not just set it to exciting and then it moves a bunch and goes nuts. It actually listens to the music and can tell that it's escalating. So shameless plug, if you want to listen to more of the music, I will link to it down below in the description. Like I said, just released a new album. Got to share it at some point, right? So as of the time of shooting, it's currently listed at $750. But remember, you can use promo code ScottYuleMusic at checkout and you can get $75 off of your order. And I will have details and links to where you can purchase this down below in the description. I know the video is already long, but I said I would go over effect palettes and snapshots. This gives you even more control over your lights. Go up here and go to control, and I'm going to choose a fixture that I want to create a snapshot of that light. That's the way that I'm understanding this. So I'm going to go to the gig bar, and I'm going to create a new snapshot. I'm going to call this dinner, no lasers, no strobes. Because if we're playing like during dinner at like a wedding or something like that, I obviously don't want the lasers and strobe going at that time. But I still want to trigger some of these scenes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down all the pars and stuff like that. And derby, those are fine. I'm going to scroll down until I get to the lasers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this override channel value. I'm going to override that. This means I am telling Maestro I want to override any of your scenes and I want you to always have the lasers off. I'm saying I want the channel value to always be 0 on this snapshot. Let's go down and do the same thing for the green laser. I'm going to override that and I'm going to set that to off because I don't want that light to be on. Same with the lasers. I'm going to override, set that value to 0. The strobe as well and the UV strobe as well. I want none of those to be enabled when I do this. So now that I've saved that snapshot, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to set up a cue using this. So I'm going to set up a cue like I normally would. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the effect palette and I'm going to say add effect palette. And I'm going to call this just like dinner. And I'm going to choose the snapshot that I want to apply this from. So under the snapshots, dinner, no laser, and strobes. I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to save this as a cue. You'll see the new cue down here. I'm just going to call this dinner cue, no lasers. So without the effect palette on, you can see like right now the lasers are going. Obviously that's not what I want because I have to go over here to the effect palette and save it and make sure that dinner effect palette is loaded. And once I do that, you can see that the lasers are completely gone. And again, I can make adjustments, but the effect palette or the snapshot has overridden some of the settings and done it exactly how I want it to be. I can load a different cue as well. So let's do this YouTube test one. You can see that the lasers are going. Now when I set my effect palette to the dinner one, you can see that all of the lasers are gone. Basically think of a certain snapshot that you want the lights to specifically be at. You can set that here and kind of override what Maestro's doing. Pretty cool. You get all this control with it if you want. Hey, this is Editor Scott here. So as I was editing this video, MaestroDMX added a video to their YouTube channel, which I'm going to link to down below. It's a great video showing how you can use this to put like movers onto a drum solo and it will light up just the drummer. Or something else that's really cool is that you can add a strobe when the kick drum reaches this activity level or on silence or something like that. So if there's not much activity, you could disable certain exciting lights, but then when it hits a certain activity level, level, the strobes come in, for example. Really, really cool how much extra stuff you get with this. And I do recommend checking that out if you do want more control over how your lights look in Maestro. So I've used this probably about 20 shows at this point. The first 5 shows, I just set it to just go mode, basically. I just set it to one scene and I just let it listen to the music. It was so much better than just sound mode, where it just listened and it was just complete chaos. But the lights do move in general to the music. You can see them like flash, like with a kick drum. It knows when it was like a slower song to not go as chaotic. It was really, really nice. One of our stage managers that we work with, she was like, wow, those lights look so much better. And then I started adding MIDI. I'm definitely a MIDI nerd, and I like being able to control this with MIDI. And that was really cool to be able to specifically choose like the glacier scene if it was a slower song, or go to a more chaotic scene for a heavier song, or go to the Prince theme song when we did the Prince songs, or even things like if we did Waterfalls by TLC, making all the lights blue. Just little things like that were really, really cool to be able to do. I did do this as a mixture with my band as well as some DJ sets that I did. And here's some examples of like some good footage that I got where it did work really well. You can see like good transitions or just general stuff like that. So YouTube keeps grabbing this one for copyright, so I can't play the audio. But here's how it is during the main song. And then it does this quick transition. And then when it goes right back into the chorus, it transitions back. This is literally the 7th time I've uploaded this video. I'm just muting the audio. I'm so tired of the copyright stuff. So the only thing, sometimes it'll take like a minute to realize that there's a transition. Not always, but every now and then it would kind of like wait a little bit to realize that there's a transition. You can see this when I was just doing like a sound check with my drummer. I just had him play a beat just to listen to the music. You can see how long it takes after he stops to shift to the next part. Again, that wasn't that big of a deal. Here's like another one where it kind of waited a minute to transition to the next part. So that's just something to keep in mind. I mean, you should realize this isn't going to be perfect. And I think that's something to consider is about who this is for. If you need your light show to be 100% exactly how you envision it, then you're going to have to do something where you program those scenes exactly and spend the time to do that. Although you get a lot of control over this with the snapshots and the effects and stuff like that, but you don't have like faders that you can program an actual scene or a chase or something like that. However, just setting just general scenes, especially with like my cover band, because we have over 200 songs now at this point, there's no way I could program an entire light show for that entire show. That's what I'm going to work on. Once I find the time to do it. Between gigging and YouTube stuff, like my schedule is so full. But what I want to do now is with each of the songs, I want to trigger different cues and different scenes based on the song. And I can trigger that with MIDI. We use Stage Tracks 3. I love this app. It's capable of sending MIDI. Really cool way to output backing tracks, and it has MIDI out. So you can control all of your gear with MIDI, including the lights. That's going to be my next step. Also a popular video of mine, the B-Beat, which is a standalone device that's capable of outputting multi-track backing tracks, MIDI, and video, but it doesn't have a way to do lighting right now. Now you can output MIDI into the Maestro. Also check out my videos on those products as well. I think they pair really well with this device. But I'm going to keep using it. It saves so much time. Even with my original music, these lights take up 240 channels of DMX in the mode that I have them set to. You know how long it would take to program something like this? And it really does make the lights look so much better. If you need it to be perfect, the exact way that you envision it in your head, you might want something else, but just setting some general parameters and letting it listen to the music has been really great, and it really helps out a lot. So if you do decide that this is something that's right for you, don't forget you can get $75 off using promo code ScottYuleMusic at checkout. I'll have links down below so you can check this out for yourself. Thank you guys again for watching. If you want to check out my video on the Quasar Science Double Rainbow 100 lights, those are my favorite lights, and I did do a video on those. And also, if you are curious on those videos that I did on the B-Beat, that standalone device that can output MIDI, video, and backing tracks, but does not have a way to do lighting right now, I really think that these pair very well together. So you can check out my video on that as well. You can check out both of those videos by clicking the links on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottYuleMusic. I post a lot about my shows on my stories there. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.